Welcome to the Board of Selectmen meeting. It's February 14th, 2024, Valentine's Day. I'm gonna call the meeting to order and we will start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
to the flag of the United States
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America.
for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. It's gonna be good.
We had that issue last time. Okay, so we will start the meeting. Oh, I'm just gonna set the stage here. Selectmen is at a family event. We have Steve Antonio calling in post-surgery, if that's not too much information. And we have Diana Geisley who's attending a very serious family issue, and so she's dialing in. So that's why we're split up like this. So with that,
So I also apologize for my casual attire. So I do apologize for my casual attire.
We can't tell.
You look great.
we it's pink, and Curtis and I got the pink message, so
There we go.
okay.
Non-partisan, so.
Well, red is,
That's true.
we could have worn red. And anyway, no diversions. So with that, I'd like to call for public audience, and Joan Coe is here. So we'll start. Joan, please, you have 5 minutes.
Joan Coe, 26 Whitcomb Drive. At the January 22nd, 24 meeting, First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis was unruly and defied her own rule on decorum. I was chastised for going over 22 seconds of my public audience comments, but Lori Boyko went over 12 seconds with her comments under the same venue and Wendy was silent. The federal lawsuit says public audience should be open for 30 minutes. With only 2 people speaking, 22 seconds would not disrupt the meeting. First Selectman's display of undemocratic behavior condoned by the Board of Selectmen will only give her more impetus to go further and press the panic button that is hidden under the table in the front of Wendy Maxtusis' seat to call police to eject the speaker. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis has lost the confidence of the public with her governing policies and should not receive another term. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis can't wait with the approval of her board to press the panic button to show that they are in charge of the dialogue at the meeting. The Board of Selectmen sat silent, thereby condoning Wendy's bullying tactics with glee. The rules and procedures must be rescinded as an undemocratic document as stated by the ACLU. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis stated that the Police Commission could remove public audience after decades of placement on the agenda. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis was not aware of the reasoning behind the removal. It was alleged that Commissioner Long, and I have a picture of Commissioner Long. It was alleged that Commissioner Long was not interested in listening to me, questioned Long's false narrative that Chief Bolter, his hand-picked candidate for chief, was doing a good job. I was concerned that when a family called the police for a well-being check, it took hours to find the person hung in the bathroom adjacent to the master bedroom. Officer Gray, president of the police union, was responding officer to the call, and although he spent time in the master bedroom with music coming from the bathroom where the suicide took place, he never opened the door to the bathroom, leaving the investigation to continue to the next shift where they immediately found the body. After thorough review by Chief Bolter, it was determined that Officer Gray had, quote, a momentary lapse in judgment, end quote. At another meeting, I questioned some of the internal affairs investigations that were political documents skewed to produce a false finding. First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis should question Commissioner Long, a member from the inception of the Police Commission, the reasoning behind the vote for the no public audience. As First Selectman Wendy Maxtusis questioned why most of the police officers voted no confidence in the chief. At the last Board of Selectmen meeting, there was discussion about choosing a committee to review and implement affordable housing in Simsbury with a DEI component. DEI has destroyed the fabric of America that all people are created equal. There is nothing in the Declaration of Independence that states some people are more equal than others and should be judged by the color of their skin. The DEI organizations pit one group against another, causing more friction and attend and should be eliminated from all public discourse. It creates inequity and chaos. Affordable housing is another regulation that legislates social engineering that doesn't work. In a capitalistic society, the market is the regulation of price and availability. The affordable housing regulations were initiated by lawyers to create a legal system ripe for litigation with strict rules that only benefit lawyers, builders, and developers at the expense of the public. These regulations should be eliminated by our legislators. The Simsbury Performing Arts as a nonprofit independent group has masqueraded as a service to the town, when in reality they have created undue burden to the residents, businesses, and security. The SPAC does not pay for rental use of the Simsbury Meadows land as other organizations are charged, but have created a sweetheart deal with the administration. Many of the concerts bring people from other towns who tailgate on many of the parking areas along Ironhurst Boulevard, bringing their food and drinks outside the venue. People attending the concerts are using many parking spaces that restrict traffic for the businesses in close proximity to the concert, losing money. The SPAC concerts create a burden on business. The SPAC is a private business, should not ask the taxpayers to enhance their bottom line. The SPAC should produce a financial statement on all the additional costs and legacy costs for the lifetime of the venue derived from the $900,000 grant from the state before this grant is accepted. Has the town studied the environmental impact?
Thank you, Joan.
Continual addition to fragile land.
Lori, would you
All my
like to come
comments
up?
will be posted on Simsbury Patch and Twitter at Joan Co. Thank you. I tried my best to get
Thank
the
you.
5 minutes.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, Joan.
I am Lori Boyko from 15 Oakhurst Road. And I do want to start out by addressing how Joan was treated at the last meeting and other meetings. Joan has been showing up addressing issues in town for close to 50 years now. She most likely knows more about what's going on all over town today and historically than all of you combined. Is she always right? No. But I'd venture to say that more than 50% of the time she is, if anyone would even bother to listen. She always has a prepared speech written in advance, and she knows exactly how many words can be in her speech that will take about 5 minutes to say. So it is abundantly clear that if she runs over by a few seconds, she is wrapping up. Whether anyone agrees with what she has to say or not, cutting her off when it's clear she's finishing is uncalled for. There's absolutely no reason for her to be shouted over while she finishes participating in the political process. My concern is that this apparent disdain for town residents, those who this and other governing bodies are supposed to represent, is a recurring theme. You already know how I feel about the rules you all decided to vote on about how you expect us to address you. But even more notably, a significant number of people on town boards and commissions, and even our state representative, found it necessary to convene a protest against a group of parents who have concerns about their rights to direct the upbringing of their children and the detailed, sexually explicit, obscene pornographic books in our school libraries. The group meeting was a local Moms for Liberty chapter, which has been unfairly vilified in the media, and that was enough to spark outrage by some of our representatives against local parents. To my knowledge, Selectmen Looney and Yaisley left a meeting of this board to go protest and have a photo op. They left the business we elected them to do to go protest against us. They don't even know what they were protesting because they never took the time to find out from the parents what their concerns were. They just decided, based on news coverage and allegations by the Southern Poverty Law Center, that this group was somehow an anti-LGBT, racist, anti-Semitic Nazi group. I don't think I left anything out. Another one of our elected officials who ran point on the protest commented in a Facebook group that the goal was to prevent them from ever coming back, simply because she disagreed with their viewpoint. This is precariously close to government violating the First Amendment rights of peaceable assembly and free speech. I'm not exactly sure how we got to a point where our elected officials are protesting against residents because of the group they are meeting with, rather than finding out firsthand what their concerns are. But somehow we don't have a government representing us. We have activists working against us. I did speak at length to Selectman Yaisley about this and learned that everyone in that Board of Selectmen meeting knew where they were going and why, yet not one single one of you said a word, not one word. No one on this board stood up for the people of this town and said they elected these people to do this job and they are leaving to go to a protest against the people. That's not right. What books could be so obscene in our schools? There are so many. I have addressed this on multiple occasions with our Board of Ed who don't blink an eye. They don't even discuss it. We spend $100,000 a year on school library books, yet we have devolved to the point that handing school students explicit descriptions of incestuous rape, pedophilia, and cartoons of minors performing oral sex on one another, wearing strap-on dildos in the schools is not only acceptable, but encouraged. One of the most mild examples is in this book, in which one boy at scout camp says to another as he pulls his pants down, "We're each busting a load into this bottle. If you don't come, you have to drink it. Ha 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 ha. Give me that, I'll show you." The group of parents canceled because they had been previously doxxed and had jobs literally threatened at another meeting in Avon and were unwilling to face another mob, particularly one including Simsbury elected officials. The effect it had of shutting down their right to assemble should concern every single citizen in this country. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I'll move on to the first Selectmen's report, which I'm hoping to keep quick. I'm just gonna read some of the highlights because it'll go out on the listserv and everyone can read it. Wanted to acknowledge Black History Month in February. I included a link to some information and also a recommendation from my book club of a book that we just read. I did wanna congratulate the Super Bowl winners and the Chiefs, although I just heard on the way here that there's been a shooting and there was an incident, so of course, condolences go out to that and again, this continues to happen across the country. We did have our goal setting session. We're working on getting that out to prioritize and regroup on that. We're in the middle of the budget process. I have the dates and information on early voting that's coming up. I also addressed some of the emails and comments that we received about the SVAA, that some of it was solicited on social media. I included links to the information that was presented at the meeting on 12/19 where we had all the information from the SVAA. And then there's another packet of letter we received from the SVAA today that I believe we can try to include in our communications section in the next meeting or attached to this agenda. Couple other things, just general information in here. I'm not gonna take time out to read it, but that's what's in there if you get it and you wanna read it. Little preview. I'm gonna turn it over to Mark.
Thanks, Chair. Just a couple of quick items for the town manager's report today from departments. Firstly, from Culture, Parks and Recreation, there will be a special holiday public skating session held at the Simsbury Farms rink on Monday, February 19th and Tuesday, February 20th from 1 to 3 p.m. each day. Admission is $5 for residents and $7 for non-residents, and skate rentals are $5 if needed. The Simsbury Recreation Department has organized a bus trip to the world-famous Bronx Zoo for April school vacation, and the trip will be held on Monday, April 8th. It's $75 per person with limited seating left. Please sign up at www.simsburyrec.com. The Rec Department has openings in Spring 24 Learn to Play pickleball programs. Come find out why this sport's so popular and be active this spring. And we'll have you playing the game by the end of your first lesson. And again, you can sign up at simsburyrec.com. Also quickly from social services, the Simsbury Loan Locker recently passed a milestone of 3,000 visits. The Loan Locker, which was initiated by local residents, makes available items such as wheelchairs, walkers, canes, knee scooters, bed rails. All of this is free of charge to people in need. The program is coordinated by community volunteers in consultation with the Aging and Disability Commission, and medical equipment is collected through donations. It's inspected by a licensed physical therapist, by the way. The Simsbury Medical Equipment Loan Locker is at the Apple Barns at Simsbury Farm, 60 Old Farms Road. All pickups and drop-offs can be arranged by appointment only. And we want to note, to make a donation or to borrow equipment, please email simsburyloanlocker@gmail.com or call 860-658-3224. And finally, I just wanted to, a point of personal privilege, very proud to announce that Franklin Baruco of my office has been promoted to Business Management Specialist. And Tom Fitzgerald, who is here with us each meeting, has been promoted to Deputy Town Manager. Both Franklin and Tom have been doing a great job in the Town Manager's office for quite some time, long before I got here. They've served with distinction, and they're both stepping into their new roles effective immediately. And bring great enthusiasm and energy to my office. So please join me in congratulating them this evening. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Tom. I do want to say, Mark, you give a nice sales pitch on those learn to play
I'm
pickleball
gonna
and
need
things
to
like
pay
that.
the $5 because I don't have skates, but so just make a
I'm
note.
not skating,
No, gotta get you out there.
not my good thing. Okay, so we're gonna move it.
A couple comments in case I could.
Oh, sure.
So there was a visit from the Lieutenant Governor. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Oh, sure. She reached out to me that she was in Farmington. So she came to Town Hall to stop in and wanted to meet the staff. So I stopped in to introduce her to our town manager and the people in his office. And then we made our way down the hallway and we just talked about what was going on in town.
Okay.
Is that good?
I think that's great. I saw a post about it, but I didn't get any information about it. It would have been good to know that it was happening. I know it sounds like it was ad hoc, which is great that
It
the
was.
Lieutenant Governor took interest in Simsbury, but I think that those are opportunities too. And it'd be
Sure.
great for the board to be informed when those kinds of things
Yeah, I'm sorry.
happen. So-
It was a
Nope,
last minute thing.
I understand. Yep, but I only saw the post, on social media afterwards. The board, it wasn't in either of the updates either, but I
Okay,
understand.
yeah, it was, I guess that's like, I didn't think it was a big deal, but thanks for pointing that out and I will be much more
If the
sensitive
Lieutenant
to
Governor
that.
comes to town, it's a big deal.
Okay. Oh, I shouldn't have said that.
The
Oh,
smell-
it is a big deal.
There was a report of the smell off the fields. I live on the north end of town too. Is there any update on that? Or I know that a couple of residents were pretty concerned about it. I wasn't, as directly impacted, but drove by it, a
Yeah.
lot too. I don't know if the town manager or the first selectman had
Sure,
any
this
thoughts
was
about it.
and look, very distressing to people who are longtime residents proximate to that location. I was copied on all of the emails. We've been monitoring it. This situation has since, abated. Apparently this also occurred to somewhat of a lesser extent last year. And so we're reviewing our contractual relationship with the farmer to see if there's any options for us to mitigate this moving forward, but we're gonna closely monitor it. Apparently it was a pretty significant disruption, so thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
No, I like farms and understand that they have, work
Yeah.
to do, but since it's town-owned land, we probably have something to say at least about the circumstance. So, but thank you for that.
Thank you for bringing it up.
How's that?
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, sure. Do you have a report? Would you like to give us any other selectmen report?
We can talk a little bit about the DEI council during that discussion
Okay.
if we need to, because there was some there. I'll mention and a follow-up to your mention of Black History Month that the town hosted at the library. I think the DEI council sponsored a discussion on I think the title was How Jim Crow Affected My Family. It was presented by a resident of town. I thought the story was compelling and interesting as it related to somebody who lives here now. And how a change in the administration and the President Wilson administration negatively impacted her family and what would have been success by adding Jim Crow into the management and federal departments. And the recording of that is available. I know on Simsbury Community Media, they do a good job recording this meeting and others, and that one is available. I think it just got posted today. So I'll save the rest of my comments for the discussion on the rules
Sure.
and procedure for the DEI council.
Okay, the only update I will give is there's questions. I've talked to Trish Monroe, I've talked to Tom Fitzgerald about the process for unaffiliated voters to get on boards and commissions. So I'm gonna hope to move that to the personnel subcommittee and invite Trish and Tom to work out, how that happens going forward. That's all I have. There's finance subcommittee, as I've been asked, is on hold until after the budget because our finance director and finance team is hard at work. And so I'll turn this over to Curtis and then we can go to our video joiners.
The planning committee decided not to move forward with the property down south. So, well, I guess they've closed the public comment and they've asked for a draft of a denial for their next meeting. So, barring anything changing, then it'll be denied.
When is the meeting?
Let me look that, I'll get back to you.
Okay.
I don't know off the top of my head. And just one other thing, Selectman Getz and myself also had the ability to go on a ride along with the plow trucks.
This is great.
And it was a great time. I thank you, Public Works, but also just wanted to remind you, one thing that was told is to put your garbage cans on your lawn and not in the street because it creates a problem for them. And also not to push out your snow into the road because it affects the salt and how it gets distributed, so
Good tips.
little tips.
Okay, Diana.
Hi, thank you. I actually have several updates. First on public safety, and it's kind of related to aging and disability as well, but in public safety, there is an elevator renovation project that's going to be happening at Town Hall. And as what started as still chair of aging and disability and now Board of Selectmen liaison to the Aging and Disability Commission, met with Tom Roy about this elevator renovation project. And I just wanted to let people know that we are looking at it from the lens of accessibility because it will render the building not ADA accessible, especially to the third floor. And they are coming up with a plan to mitigate everything so that the residents have access to departments during the renovation time, which is going to be several weeks from early April to mid-June. And what we can do to make sure that all public meetings will have access through hybrid, departments have access. So there will be a lot of communication surrounding this. And so, but I wanted to give the board and the public audience and people watching the heads up early that this is going to be happening, and there will be a lot of communication about how you access town departments during this time. Especially on the third floor, that will be, you can take the stairs currently, but it won't be ADA accessible, and the elevator, you can't reach it that way. But for those that have mobility issues, can attend town meetings, we'll make sure they're hybrid. So stay tuned for more information about that, and that will be happening. Board of Education, they had their budget workshop, and last night a presentation from Matt to the Board of Education on his preliminary budget. And then they're going to now be working and digging in before they present their budget to the Board of Finance. They were initially looking at a 3.58% increase at the tri-board meeting. But the initial budget that the Board of Ed had during their workshop indicated it was a 6.93% increase, but they know that now needs to be worked on, and they're going to get to the drawing board to see what finally comes to the Board of Finance. Aging and disability, the big thing is pushing for Super Thursdays to come back. It used to be formerly Super Tuesdays, but these are lunchtime meals that are provided to seniors at the facility. And they used to happen at Super Tuesdays. Used to be monthly, then it was 6 times a year, then it was quarterly. Then it was decimated to nothing, and right now it's currently funded only for one time a year during the fashion show in October, and they would really like to have it back to a more sustainable, at least quarterly Super Thursday, but they are in dire need of funding. So they are, we can make donations, but if anybody else has ways of thinking of donating, they are desperately in need of funding to have Super Thursday happen at all. They have reached out to businesses as well for donations. Parks and Rec, in addition to everything that Mark Nelson reported in his town manager report, their summer employment applications are open, and they are looking for summer employment opportunities. So please have people apply for that. The camps are almost completely sold out. Camp Stuff to Do was sold out that day. They would consider opening up secondary waiting lists depending on if they have counselors that they can employ. There was the AED installed at Simsbury Farms, and the next one that they're looking to do, because they want to continue this really much needed safety thing for our town, is Rotary Park, because the Rotary reached out after seeing the AED information and publicity at the Simsbury Farms Park. the Rotary is interested in sponsoring an AED device government park, so that's going to be next on the docket. For the Performing Arts Center, they are, I've communicated with them, and as Wendy knows, they are planning a presentation to the Board of Selectmen so that we have an understanding of what it is that they do and what the project that is presented for us, what is that going to look like, and stay tuned for some more information from the PAC. And then lastly, the Youth Service Advisory Board. Half-day programs are very much needed for middle school and high school, especially when they have half days of school, and mostly to mitigate the students who are down at the meadows and kind of not, and businesses and we know that we hear from some businesses in town that they've been overwhelmed and overrun by some students during half days. So they're looking into doing some programming to mitigate that. There's post-COVID absenteeism is still an issue for some students. Energy assistance is available for families that are needed through social services. On April 20th, there will be a job fair for summer employment for students that's outside of the Parks and Rec summer employment, and that will be at the library on April 20th. And that's everything I have.
You sure? Sorry.
Sure. Hey, I always told you I'm going to attend and I'm coming with information.
Steve, I'm guessing you don't have anything to add post-surgery, so you don't have to come off mute unless I see that go. Oh, he's coming off mute.
I'm just coming off mute to say, unfortunately, I have not. This is the first meeting I've attended since, so I have nothing to report. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, so I'm gonna, we have our consent agenda. I'm gonna ask for a motion to move some of the items to the consent agenda. If the board agrees with that. I am asking to move the tax refunds, item A. Item B, the donation from Carol and Keith McLean Shinneman, and I put a thank you in my first selectman report. Item H, which is the proposed public gathering permit on the George Washington Monument, and I did put a blurb on that in my first selectman report so that people know about it. And then the 3 appointments that we have to diversity, equity, inclusion, to resignation from aging and disability, and the Parks and Rec appointments. You wanna move it?
So you're moving items A, B,
H.
H, I,
Oh, not I.
H, and J?
I did A, B, H from the action items and A, B, and C from the appointments.
I'll make that motion.
Okay.
I'll just leave it there.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, second. Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, Steve voted yes, Diana voted yes. I'm gonna say that because I think you're supposed to report on who's voting online. I think that's a kind of a FOIA thing. So, all right, we'll move those out. Just gonna get these papers out of my package. Sorry, trying to keep an organized structure here as I do this. The next item that we're here to discuss is the highway safety project from Chief Bolter, who is not here to discuss this. I would like to ask if Mark Nelson would like to give us the background on this, or Tom Fitzgerald.
I defer to Tom on this, Chair, if Tom's prepared to do that.
Sure, it's a grant, so I believe it's the DOT to provide us funding to do some speed enforcement. There's areas located in the packet for you. And it's for an amount, if awarded, for a full $15,000. There's no town match for it. And then it's for a select period of time between now and the end of May.
Okay. And does any,
I have a question on that.
Yeah,
The
go ahead.
it says that it will be recurring. There will be annual and recurring costs. Do we know those, is it $15,000 a year or?
So that I don't know off the top of my head, unfortunately. The recurring cost would be if we keep doing, I think, new radar devices, I believe.
Actually, no, a radar device needs to be tuned once a year, and it's an insignificant cost, but it is in fact a repeating cost every year that new radar gun will need to be tuned, certified, recertified, actually is what we call it.
So does that mean
I
this
have
has become
I
a,
have a question
Yeah.
though, when I can. Should I raise my hand? I'm not sure.
no, you can, you're talking now, so you can keep talking.
Okay, just is there any, I hate to utilize the term quid pro quo, where we're like supposed to be handing out additional speeding tickets? Or are these more of those passive ones where you drive by, it's got flashing lights? We have several in town already. I think it inferred that it was more of those, but does someone know the detail? If that is the type of,
Well, I think on here it
we're
says
talking about?
cruiser radar units. I don't know if that means it's in the cruiser?
Right, I'm just curious if it's a very creative way to fill the state coffers. I can't help but be skeptical, but if they give everybody free radar guns, you know, their end game is actually pretty smart. I gotta give them credit.
Do we have any more information on this, cause we don't have the chief here?
Well, I guess the question would be whether or not, it's saying that there are gonna be additional additional officers outside of their normal schedule.
Right.
So that's why there's
The funding.
the recovery for their direct rate and indirect rate on the grant. And I guess the question, Steve, is whether or not they're gonna be conspicuous about their location to decrease the, rate of travel, or they're gonna be trying to hide and, do a speed enforcement zone
Right.
that they're able to catch. And issue a citation like you're saying. I think that only the chief could actually answer that,
Yeah.
unless it's specific in the grant that they're supposed to be meeting some sort of a quota, which I would have hoped would have been put in this note to us that we'd be aware.
Yeah, so some of it, I have the Excel sheet open for it,
Thank
so some of it is looks about just over $8,100 for salary breakdown, so municipal police officer. And then about just under or 5,000 for some equipment, dual stalker radar unit 2 times, a remote control and antenna wire.
So that's the budget, but it's not the requirement of the grant, right? It doesn't say what our performance metrics are, whether or not we need to actually field them.
No, that I don't see that. And they do the grant in Excel, the state, so it's a weird tabbing over here.
I could say I haven't seen one that has metrics, deliverables in terms of that, but obviously can't speak for the chief, so if we wanna get that information, we can defer and get the chief's comments.
I would be comfortable in the discussion tonight, being able to make the motion and proceed with this, considering it's in good faith. But if the town manager and the chief find out something that's substantively different than what we're discussing tonight, then I would wanna be made aware. That's all.
Perfectly
That
fine.
sounds reasonable.
Yeah.
So I'll make the motion effective February 14th to submit a grant application to the Department of Transportation to authorize Police Chief Nick Moulter, Town Manager Mark Nelson, and Finance Director Amy Merriweather to execute the grant application and to accept the grant and full reimbursement, and to authorize the Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute the documents related to the grant award. And I guess also to further move to appropriate the grant's funds and recommend said appropriation to the Board of Finance. Okay, a second.
We did, okay.
No,
Is there any further discussion? All those in favor of
I would
moving?
see like more detail from the chief, I gotta be honest, I was more inclined to table it, as I don't think time is of the essence for this small item, unless I'm missing something.
Well, you can, that's your discussion, but we can take a vote and then if people don't.
Unless he didn't second it, I was just kidding.
Oh, did you,
I don't know.
you didn't,
I actually didn't second, but I would second it.
Okay.
That's
so discussion from
Just a
Steve is
I mean, Steve, you can make a motion now to table this under discussion.
Well, I just, I wanna underscore an understanding with the chief on my belief of our great partnership with our police force, that they work with our community. I forget what it says on the back of the patrol cruisers, but it says working in partnership with our community. And if we are advertising where these speed cameras are, and then putting them in place. That's working with the community. The community knows they're there. If you're silly enough to not pay attention and all, to me, that's all fair game. But if we're just beefing up people being pulled over on the side of the road, I don't think that's a good image for our town. I'm not saying we should ever look the other way. Please don't misconstrue that even remotely. I'm just saying that having people pulled over all up and down Route 10 for speeding violations is also not a good look for our community. So it would just be to be assured that we are working in the spirit of partnership with our community versus policing our community from a, an overwatching perspective, if you will.
I'll add, Steve, I don't disagree at all. I think that it's important for the department to have a community-oriented policing policy. I think the chief tries to talk that way. Whether or not it's managed that way, I'll leave it to the town manager to make sure that that's working. The time period of the grant here, it's showing us anyway, looks like it's sort of already started and it's going for a period through the end of May. So if we wait, to the next meeting, I don't think it limits us entirely, but I do think that there's some value in proceeding, and I think that we can alleviate the concerns that you're asking about if we ask the town manager to clarify it as we're pursuing this. We're providing the authorization, and if for some reason in our authorization we're giving some right and left limits and he finds out that it's not consistent with that it's requiring us to be aggressive in policing. But I have to say that a conspicuously placed cruiser at the intersection of County and Hoskin Road might not be a bad idea sometimes when I see people
Oh my God, that'd be a
blasting
great
through.
one, not to say it, but
As long as, but if they're just there to hide and pull somebody over, then I understand and I agree with you, but I don't know that that's the requirement.
Okay, so Steve, you did not make an amendment to the motion that's on the
because I'm
table.
not gonna motion, I'm happy with Kevin's addendum, if you will, I'm not sure of the terminology. But yeah, Mark, if you can just make sure we're working in a community approach with our officers. The intersection that Kevin actually referenced is common to at least 3 of the selectmen, that we see the dangers of the forks. We know we're trying to get rid of all these forks in town slowly over time. That's one of the ones that people go through at quite a speed, and you're right, a cruiser there and having someone to pay the overtime, that's great. For this fiscal year, I could wholeheartedly support it. I'm always a little paranoid about that. It's perpetual. We're expected to do it from then on. But no, I could get behind this with that understanding and Mark following through, please.
Okay, I would like to add to the
Tom had something too. Go ahead.
Oh.
I found the objective of the grant if you'd like me to read it.
I would find that
Sure.
helpful.
Okay, speeding vehicles are a large problem within the town of Simsbury. Simsbury serves as a cut through from rural communities to the cities and highways. Simsbury officers conducted a total of 3,307 motor vehicle stops in 2023. 53% of those stops were for speeding vehicles, 1,769 in total. We've seen a historically high number of citizen complaints regarding speeding vehicles in rural neighborhoods post-pandemic. These speeding vehicles have a direct correlation to motor vehicle accidents and have been quantified with our monthly accident reports and crash repository data. By using this data, we are able to identify specific locations and times to better focus our efforts. By awarding this grant, we will be able to continue our efforts in increasing public safety and reducing speeding vehicles and accidents.
Thank you.
I gotta be honest, that doesn't speak to the partnership of the community, that it's a community problem we need to work together on as far as self-education, as well as the little supportive guardrails of the reminder of cut the crap, or you do get a ticket. But the way that objective read was much more aggressive than how I felt after Kevin read his statement.
So if I may?
Yes.
So I appreciate the apparent willingness of the board to give us the conditional approval. I can commit to obviously following the direction that I'm hearing clearly tonight. Let me offer this. If the board is inclined to vote favorably, we'll ask the police chief within the next day or so to send all members a detailed blurb and explanation on this subject. And certainly we can do that. I'd also say that just listening to what Tom read, I wouldn't characterize it as an increase in aggressiveness or assertiveness with respect to enforcement. I'd characterize it as we've got more speeders. It's been a nationwide, well-documented fact that post-pandemic speeding is up all over the country. And so I think the grant is timely. It certainly would be helpful to us in our enforcement efforts, but I didn't read that or hear that to mean that we're going to be stepping up our clandestine, hiding behind trees. But I would appreciate a passage only because I know and can see a number of other items coming forward, including our budget process that are gonna occupy a lot of time. So I'd prefer not to put it off. And I can get that email from the chief to you very quickly.
Okay.
So thank you.
Okay, and I do have a couple comments, discussion points. I think I'm assuming that the working outside of the normal hours, that the salary payment is overtime costs, that
Yes.
Okay. And then the other thing that I just would like to comment on to potentially make sure that when this says it's gonna be it's in the current budget, but we'll be coming back in another budget, that we revisit if it's a successful program to, we're happy with
Yeah.
the way it's going. So with that, I'd like to ask for a vote on the motions on the table. All those in favor we already had a motion and second. Aye. Okay, so Diana and Steve are both voting. So those pass with the conditions that we'll get some information on those afterwards. The next item is the library. We have Lisa Michelli here. The library public PEG-PISA grant. And this is asking for approval to apply for and receive the grant for $110,000+ to cover technology improvements for the library. Lisa, I don't know if you plan to speak up, if you wanted to say anything about this at all before we bring it for discussion.
If you'd like me to list the projects, I can certainly do that for you.
Okay, well, that was actually something I was gonna ask for in the I'll just one of my points on this was I was going to suggest that we make the motion to submit the grant application and authorize the town manager to receive it, but to not appropriate it until we get the projects listed for the acceptance, so we know exactly how the $110,000 is going to be spent. So that's where I was gonna go with that. So you can tell us those projects, but I may we'll see where the board stands on that discussion because they're not in here.
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
So do you want me to
I'll say,
list
so
them?
Simsbury Community Media does PEG-PISA grants all the time for
Yep.
community access, and so sit on that board and review these all the time. They're not gonna let you submit something without a lot of detail, and I'm sure that she's already had it all outlined and knows the cost of each thing and all that, and if she wanted to forward that, I'm sure that the town manager either already has it or she would be able to forward it, cause those are quite detailed grant applications.
Well, and just to point, I'm not concerned with the grant application, I'm concerned with the CNR project items.
Okay.
To make sure that, you do state in here that they're not in the CNR this year because they're here.
One of them is a CNR request for this year, and so should it be funded by the grant, it will be pulled out of the budget.
Okay,
And some of these could be potential CNR requests further down the line.
okay,
So if we get the funding for them, they will not be CNR requests down the line.
okay. But is it fair to approve and receive the grant until we do the actual appropriation so we know where the money's being spent? That's where I'm leaning towards going. I mean, I can put that out there if people wanna vote to do that third motion, that's fine too. But if there's no more questions, I'm gonna read the motions and I'm gonna do them each one at a time. Steve's still there. I was looking at the seal, I thought that was ahead. Move effective February 14th, 2024 to submit a grant application to the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority and to authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson and Library Director Lisa Michelli to execute the grant application. Would somebody wanna
So moved.
thanks a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. Steve, are you there? Okay, well,
Steve abstains.
Steve's there.
He votes yes.
Okay, so that motion's that passes. And then the second motion is to accept the grant, authorize Town Manager Mark Nelson to execute all documents related to the grant award. Somebody move that.
So we're just gonna go on, we're not gonna
That's
table it.
so we're gonna do that. I'm gonna put the last motion on. If people
Okay.
wanna move it forward, they're welcome to vote how they
So
please.
moved.
A second? Oh, did you second?
Yes,
Oh,
I'll
a second, sorry. All those in favor on that second motion, say aye. Aye. Okay, that motion passes unanimously. And the last one is to appropriate the grants funds and recommend said appropriation to the Board of Finance. Somebody wanna make that motion?
I'll move it.
Okay, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. So did you vote or no?
Yes.
Okay, so that's all those opposed say nay. I guess I'll say nay just for principle. So that's a 5-1 vote, so that also passes, so that will be appropriated once it's received. All right?
It was a 4-1 vote when.
Oh, sorry,
for the
I forgot there's one person missing. Thank you for clarifying that. Okay, the next item is the resolution to create a housing policy advisory committee. A couple things I wanna clarify here is the one that was attached to the agenda had some typos and repetitive comments. It's been cleaned up, the board has received it, it will be put in the packet, is that true, Tom?
Yep, the online packet has been corrected already.
Okay, great. So there was really nothing substantial, just mostly typo errors. And basically what we're planning to do here, if it passes, in 2021, the Planning Commission established an affordable housing plan. And within it, they recommended the creation of an affordable housing committee. At the time, the Board of Selectmen delegated that responsibility to the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, who started, and the Board of Selectmen voted to set up a housing subcommittee in 2021, who did a lot of work and research, received grants on housing and how it happens in our community, feedback on our community, have created kind of a bundled package on that. What we're doing at this level is we plan to, as the resolution states, create this committee with members of key elected boards and policymakers, and also some boards that are commissions and related to have a tie to housing, like economic development, the DEI Council on Aging and Disability, and to have a town manager act as administrative chair and a member from each board to be on this. And the purpose is to look at some of the recommendations on housing for the community and see where we can make some changes or recommendations and move those to a policy and actionable items. That's what we have going on here. I would like to give anyone an opportunity to weigh in on this if they have comments. But the draft is included here, and it's been, the Planning Commission in their POCD has asked for this to happen. So some of their recommendations may be taken up, but it's just basically a housing policy commission to get key people together to discuss housing of all sorts in the community. With that, I'd like to open this up for discussion.
Are you planning on approving it tonight if we get to consensus, or are you
I
putting
am
it off to the next?
Planning to approve it tonight, as we kind of got consensus at the last meeting to have our town manager try to put this together.
So for the purpose of discussion, I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Okay? Okay,
I'll second.
thanks for taking my resolution from taking it away from me to make.
I have a couple of comments and I'm happy to start, or you can go in whatever.
Well, we have a second on the table, so sure.
Okay, so in one of the whereases, it says desirous of elevating. I would just remove that language and say recognizes the work of. I just don't think that we need to be desirous.
Up there, I could change it where.
Thank you, it's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th whereas.
Could you just restate that for me?
And so it currently says, whereas the Board of Selectmen is desirous of elevating the work of the DEI Housing Subcommittee, I would say whereas the Board of Selectmen recognizes the work of the DEI Housing Subcommittee. And the other changes that I had on the previous draft were addressed in this.
Okay. Okay, with that, Well, with the motions on the table, and did someone second that?
Diana.
Diana second that? Okay, is there any further discussion from anyone on the screen? So Tom's changing it in real time.
Right, I'm just,
Sure.
Oh, I do.
well, so I see what Kevin is looking for there, but I think we're still missing a word in that, honestly, whereas, because we recognize the work, but the because I understand what the intent is of the initial language is recognizing in that whereas that we want to take the chain of command from the current way it's structured to directly to the town manager, which we talk about a little bit below, but I think it's because we're recognizing the work of the DEI. It seems like there's just a word there missing. In order to recommend actionable actions, bring together policy. I'm just not sure how to change it to make it.
I think if you add.
I mean, I'm happy to keep it as what?
If you add the word "and" before the word "in," I think you're absolutely right. You just,
Yeah.
you just,
Okay. Thank you.
you need the word "and" there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I know it's something clerical, but we need it to make sense.
And in order to recommend.
And
Thank you.
and it does recommend taking the work that they did along with the POCD and the recommendations that we received from the prior interim town manager and town manager's office to be part of the review process.
Right.
Did you have another discussion
I
item?
did, and I had forgotten, I apologize. On the second to last resolved, it says about eliminating the housing subcommittee, which I think that you were already doing in the other document. That's the rules and procedures for the DEI committee. I just think that we understand why you're putting it or why it's in here. I just don't think it's necessary for this document that's establishing one committee and then talking about disestablishing another one. That's gonna happen next. So that's my request is to strike the second to last resolved.
Okay,
Because it's redundant in our next vote to dissolve it anyway.
Right, we're gonna establish the rules and procedures for the DEI committee or council. And how it's conceived is addressed in that document. We're touching it too many places if it's in this resolution.
I'm fine with that. Is everybody okay with that? But we were gonna leave in that we're recognizing and
Yeah.
basically taking their work because
Absolutely.
they're being
Sure.
disbanded and their work is being rolled into this. Okay, so we have a motion, we have the changes, let's take a vote here. All those in favor of passing this, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's a 5-0 vote with Stephen and Diana and everyone at the dais
And I
voting
can't
to.
vote against my own motion anyway, so.
Oh, you can't? Oh,
Passing the resolution as amended.
passing the resolution as amended,
amended.
correct, okay.
Thank you.
Alright, so that passes, so that's a good, hopefully a good step forward for our housing. Okay,
I think it's helpful for the record too that individuals know that what's created here is a housing policy advisory committee. It is not by name an affordable housing committee.
and that
I
was,
think that it's gonna address that, and I think that that's the right language.
and I actually took the wording of housing, affordable housing out because it shouldn't just be 830G specific, there's much a wider need for housing, workforce housing, senior housing, whatever kind of housing there is,
Sure.
so that was, thanks for pointing that out. Alright, now we are on the proposed revisions to the Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Council statement and purpose. So as we know, the town manager's office, we're shifting responsibility for the DEI council to the town manager's office. So that there could be a better focus, and it seems more appropriate that that office handles whatever administrative needs there are. The ask is for, so one of the things we have included in the document, we have recommended 14 members. I'm gonna suggest a change to that, but the way that Kevin would like to work is that he would like me to make the motion so then we can discuss it, I think, unless there's anything anybody wants to talk about before this. But basically, it takes care of some of the administrative items that the DEI council had reached out to us for starting in December. A couple of them have changed since February, and those are in here. So with that, I'm gonna move effective February 14th, 2024 to adopt the proposed Diversity, Equity and Inclusion Council Statement of Purpose and Procedure as presented, potentially as amended. So if somebody wants to move that? No?
So moved.
Thank you. And Steve seconded, so Diana,
Yeah.
okay, so for discussion, I would like to raise that the document in front of us asks for 14 members. We know that from Kevin talking to members of the DEI council and from an email that I received, they would like to keep it at 15, which was their initial request, and actually have somebody that has reached out. And given that 14 or 15, the quorum remains the same, it's not gonna impact their ability to meet a quorum. So I'm fine with changing the 14 to 15, so if people are okay with that change. And then there was another change that I found in item I, it says the filling vacancies as outlined in section 4B, but I think it's section 4E. So that's just kind of a typo, I think.
Because of the remembering probably.
Yeah, that's true. And then I was gonna address the process in E, which does say that it can be sent to the board personnel subcommittee, but past practice, I don't know where it was decided, but past practice has been that the Board of Selectmen has basically let the council recommend members to them, and I believe that's the way they prefer to continue. So with the town manager's office administrating this, we'll just make sure that we're meeting all the requirements of who's assigned and who's appointed as we go forward. Any other discussion on that?
So in letter E, it references, and since we're renewing this, I think that we can remove some of the older language when this was established. It talks about for the initial appointment recommendations. I think that first sentence can be removed, and I think that we would always follow our normal process, so we don't need to reference the normal process. I just think that saying that the Board of Selectmen may choose to seek recommendations from the council for its appointments solves the need. So it's really that last sentence. The Board of Selectmen may choose to seek recommendations from the council for membership of the committee or the council.
As all of E, is what you're saying?
As all of you.
Okay,
We wouldn't, if the Board of Selectmen were going to review somebody, we wouldn't do that in a public meeting. You would send it to the personnel subcommittee or something for interviewing somebody. That's why it makes more sense that way. But we don't, that would be the normal process if the board were gonna do that. You do that for economic development and some others. I have another note. It mentions in D about the initial term as well. And so I think it just it's fair to change that to just say members shall have 2-year terms, coterminous for the Board of Selectmen, and remove the first part of the sentence.
probably because
the
there's
first
no more,
sentence
it's
and the
old,
thereafter.
basically, because you're saying, because this is old.
Right. These are just minor edits, but I think it's helpful for clarity to understand what it is that they're doing.
Okay. I did want to question the 50% attendance, like no one, I don't know if they ever hold anyone to that. I mean, it's in here and it's so just like you're stating, things that are in here that are extraneous. I mean, we might want to keep it there, but I don't know of any time, I know that there have been times where they've had trouble reaching a quorum, but it doesn't seem to impact this. I don't think this has ever been implemented.
I'll just say from the no, I don't think that anybody's ever been removed
Right.
From a seated position. The previous one references a situation for cause, which I guess if somebody violates the law or something, we would remove them from an appointed board. I think that they want attendance at their meetings and their activities because I think they consider themselves a working committee that has other activities and things, and they would rather have somebody that's fully participating, especially if they're reducing their numbers. And I don't find it unreasonable to leave that in here.
Okay,
But I don't think that it's something that we would anticipate being,
so it's
activated.
extraneous, but you're saying it could be used.
I in other words, we
It's a
did
tool.
receive feedback when you shared this
Yeah.
with the members, and that wasn't something that I got resistance from them, so with those changes, I have no other recommendations.
Okay, so anyone else on top?
I support keeping that line in, just coming from another board and commission where, it's not even for quorum purposes, because the quorum could not be met for various different reasons, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's consistent with the same person over and over again. But if somebody is taking a spot that has been appointed and they are not active on a committee or commission for more than 50% of the meetings in a year, then that's, holding the spot that could be taken by a valued member. So I'm just putting that, because it has been an issue with some other boards and commissions and it has come up.
Okay.
And I wish there was that statement in another board and commission where it does not
Yeah,
exist.
I was wondering like if it wasn't any other boards or commissions and it might come in handy, so that's a good point. Okay, so since we've gone through this, we have the adjustments, I'm gonna ask for a vote. All those in favor of passing this proposed revision? Oh, I did wanna add one discussion item. We will be looking at the purpose and goals as we resolve as they are today, in case as we go through our goal setting, if we choose to modify or update those, that may bring another revision to the table in the future. So all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, so that's Diana and Steve voted yes, so that's 5-0, so that passes, those revisions pass. And the action item for the appointments included 14 members, so we should be getting a 15th member at some point recommended in the appointments. Okay. Now we are on the fire, so we're scheduling a public hearing for the proposed amendments to the tax abatement for volunteer firefighters. This came to us from the fire district. There's an abatement policy from the state of Connecticut that allows for tax abatements to volunteers. And we are asking to adjust our abatement policy to be in line with the abatement policy of the state, which takes out a tiered approach. This is only going to public hearing right now. There's a couple things that have come up since this that we will address when we discuss it after the public hearing so that we can incorporate those discussion points. One is we'll get a town attorney review, and another one is a request to change the timing from 2 years to 1 year. And we would need to just get the change and update to the financial impact at that point in time. So with that, I'm gonna ask for a motion effective February 14th to schedule a public hearing to receive public comment concerning proposed amendments to chapter 141, article 5 of the town code for 6 p.m. at the Board of Selectmen's regular meeting on Monday, February 26, 2024.
I'll make that motion, and I have a question that I can have asked after we vote on it.
Okay, did someone up there second it?
I'll second it.
Oh, Curtis will second it. Any further discussion? Okay, all those in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, and that's a 5-0, so the hearing will be scheduled and Kevin has a question, comment.
So I don't wanna be construed as not liking the fire or the abatements. I think it's a really pretty inexpensive way to thank public servants in doing that. But I did have questions about the taxable property that's referenced, if it's a primary residence or if it's any taxable property, like if it's a business that somebody owns but they no longer live in town. Is there any Mark, you've been here for 2 minutes, so I don't know that you will know. Actually, no, you're fully settled in, that's not fair.
I think the answer is it's residential and it's motor vehicle. I didn't see any personal property in it that would be, but we will check on that.
Okay.
And in fact, our goal, as the chair indicated, is compile all the comments both from board members and the public and come back after the public hearing with the answers and a clean draft for you to consider.
So that's my only thought is on the
It's a great point.
final draft, it would be, I think, helpful if it was clarified whether personal property or whatever, or if anybody's listening or you're able to get feedback about why commercial property or something like that is helpful or valuable to them. But I think it's a good program. I have no objection to the concept, and I look forward to the public hearing.
Great, thanks for that input, appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Okay. Next up, the public gathering permit is out. So the next item is the Simsbury School Administrators and Supervisors, it's a mouthful, Association Collective Bargaining Agreement. This is presented and developed by the Board of Ed, Neil Sullivan. It has to come to us for approval. The last time it came to the board, I look back, I could only found one in 2019 because I didn't remember doing it before, but I think it was the first night I was on the Board of Selectmen. So I'm going to put the motion on the table to move effective February 14th, 2024 to approve the 3-year contract between the Simsbury Board of Ed and the Simsbury School Administrators and Supervisors Association as approved at the October 10th, 2023 Board of Education meeting.
No move.
Diana moved that. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. Is there any discussion?
What's the 30-day waiting period? There's 3 options. We ratify and approve, we reject it and it goes to arbitration, and or we don't do anything and then it gets ratified anyway. But what's the 30 days?
Figuring out when it got emailed to the town clerk
Oh, what is the 30
on
days?
February 1st, so it'd be 30 days from that day.
The 30th of February. I have no other questions.
Okay. So all those in favor of this, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes. That's 5-0 there. Okay, the last item? Okay. The last item is the Eno Memorial Hall HVAC improvements and the role of the Public Building Committee. So this is Tom, do you wanna give the background on this one a little bit, and then we can tee it up for discussion?
Certainly, so sorry, pull up email here. So we're reached out to by Tom Roy, who in his role as Public Works Director and Town Engineer staffs the Public Building Committee. And he had been going back and forth with the chair or the acting chair of the Public Building Committee. Town and engineering staff would like to keep the HVAC project at Eno independent of the Public Building Committee process, while constantly keeping them informed of the project. And as a way, it was seen a way of kind of speeding along the project. We don't have to Public Building Committee meets, approve, they talk about change orders, and if it happens, and then they have to then get signed by the town manager, and it was a way of speeding up that process. This came to you because the chair was he wanted that decision to be run through by the Board of Selectmen with a motion saying to skip the Public Building Committee or not. Which we had consulted with our town attorney and said that a motion should be made from you to review and then recommend that they either don't go through the Public Building Committee process or do.
Okay, I do wanna just raise the question, and maybe you could answer the question for me, and then we could make the motion. So, and I do wanna defer to Kevin as liaison, cause you had talked to some of the members, but if I read the charter, you know, and I excuse me, and I may not be reading it correctly, I'm not trying to cause red tape here, but it does say the committee shall where does it say it? I'm trying to find it. All public buildings, the powers and duties with regard to all buildings. So I would like to know that the Public Building Committee agrees that they would defer it to Public Works. And Diana.
Well, cause I also would like clarification and understanding of, is this also been the process for, since we're talking this elevator renovation project, that there's currently one going on at the Simsbury Public Library, and we know there's gonna be one upcoming at Town Hall, as I referenced earlier. And is this under the same umbrella of those type of renovation projects? And were those handled under the Public Building Commission, or were these, and maybe this is part of the discussion after the motion, or were those handled under Public Works, and how would this be any different?
Cause I'm inclined, I'm kind of inclined to table this and let Public Building present and tell us that it's okay to follow this path. In case there's any concerns of the Public Building Committee, but I don't wanna slow down the project. I think Kevin, you had said you've spoken or you've heard from
I spoke with 2 members of the public buildings, they were aware of it. I don't think it was discussed formally in a meeting from what I understand. And I don't think that they voted to not pursue it, right? Because I don't think that would be appropriate. If it's not before them, they can't consider it. So in order for us to to authorize Tom Roy and Public Works to do this, he's asking us to say that it's okay. So Public Buildings is aware of the project and don't feel the need that their oversight is required or necessary, but I do think that there's actually some expertise there that, you know, could be useful, but that project is probably fairly straightforward. I think that there's also relevance, for instance, from the Sustainability Committee on seeking input there, and so as long as the town continues to use the resources available to it and pursuing the project and working on it, I have full confidence that the Public Works Department can handle a project like this. And that if there was a need to have oversight, you know, otherwise the town could always reinsert, you know, the Public Buildings Committee to review the project or the program. I don't think that this is a new building or a complex project. I feel like it's fairly straightforward, even though it's an old building, but it's not my expertise. So I rely on the two members that I spoke with here and the chair of Public Buildings asking it to be referred to us. From my understanding, this is only talking to you, First Selectman, but Tom Roy, I guess, is okay with either way. So if the board decides to refer this to Public Buildings, I don't think his feelings are hurt. But I think that he also has confidence that he can manage it. So I'm in favor of the motion, knowing that I spoke to these other folks and they have full confidence in the project.
Okay, that was, my concern was I just don't wanna step on anybody's toes of a board or commission that's out there that has authority over this, but I think so I'm gonna put the motion on
Well,
the.
sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but I do wanna say we have the authority of it and our agents in this is the Public Buildings Committee. So it's how we want the project to be managed.
Okay. Did you wanna say something?
Just that I think it's also relevant how the town manager would prefer it to be
Okay,
managed.
Yep.
And given everything else, I'm tasked with looking at our resource allocations and
Yep.
and again, as the deputy indicated, this is one that comes to me as Tom Roy can handle it. It would probably be more efficient. I know he had some conversations with the committee members as well about this, so I agree. I have full confidence that if this board approves it, and I hope you do, that we could just move it forward. And again, it's not an effort to circumvent that committee. We know there's great people there that bring a valuable resource to us, and we'll avail ourselves of that as we need to.
okay, so we're just trying to get this job done as efficiently as possible.
It really is.
We funded it, it's a large expenditure.
And I wouldn't say it, I would just add that we don't see this as precedent setting at all, to Diana's point, that each project is reviewed independently, but the Public Works can handle this.
Okay, I'm
Yeah.
doing my due diligence.
I understand.
So I like to
So
move.
since I already agreed to it, I wanted to ask something else.
Yeah.
It had been referenced to us that there might be some grant funding available to support this project in particular, and that's my only final question on this, is to make sure that us not going through Public Buildings doesn't threaten the ability to use the grant.
That's a question that I did ask, and I believe Tom said, cause we actually used some ARPA funding for this, so that was one of the questions I asked, because that was grant funding, but it was not officially grant funding, and that didn't pass. And what his answer had to do with the state, he didn't think this would fall into the state requirements that apply for buildings grants, which are more school oriented. That was the answer I got. You can
And
ask
I agree with him.
Okay, so move effective February 14th, 2024 to not use the Public Building Committee for the Eno Memorial Hall HVAC improvement project. Diana, motion? Second?
I thought we already
Did
moved
we?
and seconded it. I apologize.
don't know if I
If we did not,
remembered
if we
moving,
didn't,
did
then I'll
we?
make the motion.
I think you did, but
Oh,
doesn't hurt to do it again.
okay. Well, it's silly, but I don't remember doing it, so I think I probably jumped right into that one, but don't remember. Okay, so it sounds like there's motions, multiple seconds out on the table. All those in favor of passing this, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, there's 5 votes to nothing, so that is going to Public Works. With that, any questions or changes to the minutes?
Did we put that in the consent agenda?
No, we did not, we're not allowed to.
Okay. So I have one typographical error. There's a possessive somewhere in there that was attorney's response. And that's all. And it's just a summary of what a public comment was anyway.
Okay, so we'll move to approve the minutes with the amendment made. Somebody wanna, I'll make that motion. Someone wanna second that?
I'll second.
Okay, you keep putting your
There's a lot of
hands up, I'm not
seconds.
hearing anything. Curtis, second it.
I don't wanna get all the
All
seconds.
those in favor say aye.
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 With that, I ask for a motion to adjourn.
I just have one more
Oh,
item.
sure.
I asked to have a discussion about the rules and procedure, and we'll put that on a future agenda, it sounds like.
Yeah, Kevin had asked to talk about the way that the rules and procedures, and we can bring it to the table, and as stated in the organizational meeting, if changes are pursued, that can go to the personnel subcommittee, so we can bring it to them for open discussion, that's fine. I put the motion to, who made the
I'll
motion?
make a motion to adjourn.
Who's the second that?
Steve?
Steve, second that? Thank you for all those in favor say aye.
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 We're adjourned.